Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Terrence Crawford seems to be getting frustrated just with the idea of fighting Earl Spence and all the flack that he's been getting ever since he went live on Instagram. It was basically trying to explain what happened with the negotiations and as far as the negotiation breakdown between himself and Spence, or himself and Spence's team. Because remember, Crawford says he's his own boss. So, long story short, Crawford went out there, tried to make the fight, representing himself as a manager, promoter, advisor, deal maker. And he just wasn't able to get the deal across the table. He was able to source some money, big money actually, a lot of speculation on where that money was coming from. Nobody really knows. Till this day, no one knows. But as a result of him going live on Instagram, a lot of people, more and more, were saying that, and there's a lot of bandwagonists out there. I know for a fact, Terrence Crawford isn't afraid of Earl Spence. Earl Spence is not afraid of Terrence Crawford. Okay, so neither one are ducking the other. All right? But there are a lot of people, the bandwagonists, and they do this towards Spence too, are quick to say Terrence Crawford is ducking Earl Spence. He's afraid of Earl Spence. Now, what I will say is I think Terrence Crawford is tired of all the back and forth. And, this social media, it can be a blessing or it can be a curse. And with the type of things people are saying about Terrence Crawford, it's more of a curse right now. But hey, that's one of the things. Sometimes you got to make yourself vulnerable, man, and do what you're comfortable with. And Terrence Crawford went out there and did what he was comfortable with. And I think with the things he shared in that Instagram post, he wasn't very articulate. It's like he was reading from a teleprompter or a card, like you could see him keep glancing up, like someone was kind of cueing him on what to say. But nevertheless, he really didn't do a good job explaining anything. And then after all of that, and Earl Spence, who really doesn't say much, he comes out, they have a back and forth. So anyway, fast forward past that, I think fans are kind of split. Some are siding with Crawford, some are siding with, or half with Crawford, half with Spence. I'm trying to pull it all together. But then when you see Crawford come out here and say, hey, at this point, I don't care. I really don't think it'll damage my legacy if I fight Spence, if the Spence fight doesn't happen. And I'm going to tell him he's wrong. And someone in his corner, on his team, should be telling him, look, don't even start thinking that way. Because to be honest with you, Terrence Crawford, as far as his lack of activity in the ring, I'm talking about fighting once a year, every 14 months, 15 months. Like, he's been very inactive, so much so that you damn near would have thought he was retired at a certain point. Okay? He missed the opportunity, man, to have some good years when he's still kind of in his prime, but I'm talking about that 25 to 34, around that range. He missed some good years of being an active fighter. So no matter what he thinks, that fight between him and Spence, doesn't matter what he did, 3 weight divisions, right? When you look at the 2 best welterweights of this era, okay, is Spence and Crawford. They need to fight. I put it to you this way, right? You know who's someone whose legacy didn't really matter if he fought them or not? Was Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Those guys didn't need each other. With everything that Floyd did, he didn't need no damn Pacquiao. With everything Pacquiao did, what the hell did he need Floyd for? Except for the, Canelo Alvarez payday, right? But really, even those guys were able to come to their senses and make the fight happen. You know what I'm saying? And for their legacy, although it was, several years late, right? It still was good that they got in the ring and people got to see the two of them perform. And we got a winner and then we got a loser. But Pacquiao wasn't totally outclassed. All right? So when you think about that, we don't want, I don't think Terrence Crawford is going to be okay looking back and saying, I have no regrets not fighting Earl Spence. I'm still going to the Hall of Fame and I didn't need him. That's just the wrong mentality to have. You can't get right up here to this point and then now start talking like this. Because people are going to do what they're doing and they're just not going to cut him any slack. And to be quite frank, although Terrence Crawford's in good shape, still looks good, doesn't like he's slowed a bit, reflexes, defense is still on point. These guys aren't getting any younger, okay? So every year, as you get a little closer to being 40 years old, you just start slowing down a tad, okay? You start slowing down enough to where now you find yourself getting caught, getting hit a little more than you used to, not being able to get out of range like you used to, not being able to counter like you used to. You understand? Not being able to come and just totally dismantle and outclass your opponent like you used to because Father Time is undefeated. Simple, right? It happens to everyone at some point. So what you don't want to see, Crawford and Spence messing around, feeling they don't need each other. Spence go up to 154, Crawford keep fighting whoever he's fighting, and then the fight doesn't get made. Someone is going to lose if these two don't fight sooner than later, right? I'm just being real. Someone is going to lose. Just how it works out, okay? These guys, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not Floyd Mayweather. Crawford is not Floyd Mayweather. Earl Spence is not Floyd Mayweather. So let's frame this discussion the right way. One of them will lose if they keep messing around and out here fighting everyone but each other. And that's just a fact. I don't know, man. But being a three-weight world champion, hey, man, and one of those weight divisions being undisputed, hey, man, that's future Hall of Fame inductee, and if that's what all that matters to Terrence Crawford, well, he can put himself in the same category with Adrian Broner. Because Adrian Broner's in 4 different weight categories. He wasn't undisputed, but the man was four weight division champion, right? That's a big damn deal. And he was one of the youngest or the youngest to do it, something like that. Pretty big deal, okay? So you got to figure it out, man, because we need to see that fight. And to be honest, what you think about that comment that Crawford made here, I find that a little offensive. You know what I'm saying? Because there are a lot of people of the opinion that when it comes to Terrence Crawford, man, they feel him not fighting Earl Spence will damage him. Because they feel that with some of the guys, they feel like one of his best wins was against a guy like Jeff Horn. And Crawford has the audacity. Look, Jeff Horn can fight, all right? But you can't be sitting here talking about one of your best wins was Jeff Horn. Okay, you got a title, and you're saying your best win was Jeff Horn because Jeff Horn beat Pacquiao. So basically, me beating Jeff Horn is like me beating Pacquiao. No, that's not the same thing. Would Terrence Crawford beat Pacquiao? More than likely, you know what I mean? Probably would have beat Pacquiao, but didn't get the opportunity. A lot of crap behind that too. Not his fault, Bob Arum. Politics, right? But Jeff Horn's just not cutting it. He's just not cutting it, right? So if you want to be held in the same regard if any of these fighters, not just Crawford, him, Spence, any of them, right? Boots coming up, Stanley Eunice, Butiev, all these guys, if they want to be held in the regard as a Mayweather, which is an extremely lofty goal, right? It's just not easy to get to that point in your career. You got to look at Mayweather, man. You got to look at Pacquiao. You got to look at Mosley. You got to look at De La Hoya. You got to look at Cotto. You got to look at B-Hop, man. You got to look at these guys who are out here fighting and who they were fighting. You know what I'm saying? They fought everybody. They didn't care. And there wasn't all this back and forth and BS stuff over money. This whole thing about A side, B side, it is what it is, man. But they got to get in there and make these fights. They got to do it. And it's so frustrating. You look at a guy like Ugas. Ugas came from Cuba. This man tried to get to the country a couple times, got caught, put in jail in Cuba. Somehow figured out a way to get back to the United States. Comes over here. Yeah, he's making good money. His life has changed, right? But him as a professional wasn't all that smooth. For a couple of years, didn't know what he was going to do. He had a few losses. Got with a new trainer. Everything changed for him. Look at the position Ugas is in now. But when Ugas comes out, excuse me, I'm human. I don't edit those yawns out, right? When Ugas comes out here and says, I want to fight for legacy. I'm not worried about the money, right? Yeah, he's getting paid. But Ugas isn't going to let a BS purse split stop him from getting in there and pursuing legacy. Okay? But at the same time, I get it. When he comes to the table for negotiations, Ugas doesn't bring as much to the table as Crawford does, as Spence does. So he almost has to take what he can get. But I'm just saying, if some of these fighters had that mentality, okay, because really, Ugas should be out here trying to get as much money as he possibly can, just knowing his background, his struggle, just to change the life of his kids coming and his child, knowing he has a son, forthcoming children, family back home in Cuba. But when I hear guys like Ugas like that talk, he's not out here spinning his wheels and talking about, he's not worried about his legacy being damaged. This man is talking about, I'm all about legacy. He's not going to do anything that can jeopardize it. And even if he loses, he wants to fight the best. Like he's not here to play games. I just wish when Crawford speaks, which he can talk how he wants, but I wish he would talk a little more like that. Because it does make me feel like he's frustrated, he's a little bit embarrassed, and he's a little bit tired. He's doing interviews, man, right now with outlets out there in the UK, outlets here in the United States. And when they're talking to him, this is how he's talking into the camera. They'll ask him, so, Crawford, a lot of people don't understand why you and Spence, you guys weren't able to make the fight happen. Can you shed some light on the details of what precluded the fight from happening? This is how Crawford is responding. The fight, it didn't happen. There's, there are certain reasons and particulars, and, right now we're just looking to see about getting through this fight with Evanescence, and maybe, things will sort themselves out. And that's how he's talking during an interview. Low energy. Almost can't understand what he's saying. It's like, speak up. And again, I talked about this before in several videos, not just about Crawford, just about boxers. It was about Adrian Broner in particular. Once you're with these, whether it's Top Rank, Golden Boy, PBC, Matchroom, whatever you're with, right? You are signed to them. You're representing their brand. And if you're not going to represent their brand in a professional manner, who's going to be able to take you serious, man? I know Terrence Crawford doesn't like the camera. I know Terrence Crawford doesn't like to talk a lot. Because this is the business shit, and you're gonna have to talk. You're gonna have to raise your energy levels. You know, and this if he's talking like that on the camera, multiple interviews, people want to hear from this man. He got the BLK Prime thing going on. A supposed $10 million, 8-figure guaranteed $10 million, right? People are curious. They want to know. But if he's talking like that during these interviews and he's coming off low energy, not really articulating his thoughts, you almost have to ask him to speak up, going around some of the questions. I can only imagine if he actually went into a business meeting by himself or with lawyers, right? But nevertheless, if he's at the table and he's given an opportunity to speak, right? I can't imagine him speaking any differently. You know why? Because every time a camera's in front of him, that's how he talks. And someone can say, well, you know what? He's consistent. Yeah, and that's cool 95% of the time. But when you have an opportunity to say something and you have the ears of all the boxing fans, take advantage of it and say something. You know, but don't keep missing out on those opportunities because, again, you're here to represent the brand of BLK Prime, the brand of Terrence Crawford, the possibility of being the undisputed welterweight champion. People want to know this guy, but I just think he's frustrated. I think he's discouraged, and I'm not saying that I feel he's going to lose against Spence. I actually picked Crawford to win that fight because he fights with his eyes. But I just think at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if that fight didn't happen. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like hearing that kind of talk, but it's frustrating. And then with the WBC trying to make fights and everyone else getting involved to block fights and do these immediate purse bids in different weight divisions, I can only imagine what happens with Spence having all them damn belts, immediate purse bids, preventing Crawford and Spence from happening next. You know, look, people, I'm just being real, man. You don't expect to see this fight. I'm losing hope on Spence and Crawford ever happening. I'm just being real with you. To see what Eddie Hearn's trying to pull off right now in the heavyweight division, trying to block Usyk and Fury from happening by going to immediate purse bids because one of his guys, Hrgovic, is a mandatory for the IBF. You got Spence out here who has 3 belts, and he has mandatories. Crawford has a mandatory. And their mandatories, the teams of their mandatories, these guys are all about going for that immediate purse bid and blocking things from happening because they want their guys to get a shot at the title. So the fact that Spence and Crawford missed an opportunity, there's only so many times you can pay somebody step-aside fee. They're going to have to figure it out. And I just don't think Crawford and Spence, I don't think that's happening next. I don't think that. I'm going to do another video on that. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Crawford will fight Evanescence, Spence will fight Thurman, if that's what it is. Then they both will have to fight Crawford's going to have to fight a mandatory, and Spence is going to have to fight a mandatory. That's what I think. I don't think they're going to get it on next. I don't think it's going to happen. The mandatories are tired of getting the step-aside money. They want to fight and for a title. And I just don't think Spence especially is going to be able to break lock with his mandatories to get a shot at Crawford for an undisputed. The only way that happens if there's some serious money paid to these sanctioning bodies. That's the only way I see it happening. But hey, I could be wrong. I doubt it, but I could be wrong. But that being said, hopefully we get the fight. But I'm not optimistic about it at all. Not for next year. I just don't see it happening. I see one of these guys losing, fooling around, messing around with these hungry mandatories and up-and-comers, and one of them are going to lose, and we're all going to be pissed off. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. Shout out to people from all 7 continents. I appreciate the support. If you want to donate, PayPal, Cash App, hit the Super Thanks button. Anything you send is appreciated. I don't care if it's $1. It means a lot to me. As always, y'all keep cool, and I'm in the breeze.